recording OBS. Nobody swear. Or you can't. You can swear. I don't fucking care.
I was like, dang.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. Welcome to the Dukes of Gaming podcast.
You heard it here. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Dukes of Gaming podcast. It's good to be here this week. I was off last week, so it's really good to be back with my fellow Dukes. Introducing first, you already know we have the Duke of Rocket League. What's going on, Cole? How has your week been?
It's been good. I'm glad to be back. I was off last week too, which was a great podcast. I missed that one.
Amazing podcast.
Yeah, I'm just hanging out, waiting for baby girl to be. By next week's podcast, I will have a baby by then because we will be induced if she's not born this week. Next Friday, we're going in to have her. So heck yeah,
let's go.
Congrats.
Another person in the Duke family. Let's go.
Heck yeah.
And then, of course, we have the Duke of Nostalgia. What's going on, Taylor? How has your week been?
Pretty good. Pretty good week so far. I really can't complain. I'm not pregnant myself, so I don't have anything to add to that. But congrats, Cole. Congrats.
Thank you.
Well, that's good to hear. That's really good to hear. So, before we get into what we've been playing, just a little bit of housekeeping. Still editing, but we have the Plague's Tale Ben's Book Club coming up. Be on the lookout for that. And let's just get into what we're going to do this week. This is going to be a interesting week. The last time it was us three, we did the Nintendo Switch special, where we went over a retrospective of what Nintendo Switch, what it was before it was announced, like the rumors, and we went into what, how it's doing this generation. We're going to do the same thing for the PS4. Now, we all know the PS4 came out around 2013, and it really did dominate. But we're going to go into just a retrospect of what this system is, what it did, what it meant to the gaming, just gaming population at large, and just go into some of the games, because that's the most important thing. But before we get into that, I want to ask the question. I'll bring it to Cole first. How did you get introduced to PlayStation?
Well, okay. So I will say, I grew up I was born in 85. I got an NES. I loved, played that as a child. Don't really remember that, but I do remember getting an SNES for my birthday, and it was like the best gift ever. I think it was 93, 94, 92. I can't remember when it came out, but a big Nintendo fanboy. Went from there to N64, and my neighbor had a PlayStation, and it felt so mature. I remember going to their house, and the first PlayStation game, PSX game I have ever seen was Jet Moto. It was it's like a Sea-Doo, a jet ski racing game. I don't know if you guys remember that.
I do.
Yeah, it was like one of the most popular games back then. That one and Final Fantasy VII. I remember them playing Final Fantasy VII. But I didn't get into PlayStation until PlayStation 2 came out. And I actually picked up a PS2. I guess I talked my parents into getting it for me. And I had saved up some money. And it was 2000. It was the year GTA 3 came out because I was so hyped about GTA 3. I picked it up early that year, which was one of the best years in gaming. GTA 3, Final Fantasy X, Metal Gear Solid 2 came out that year. And from then on, it's like I graduated from my childhood gaming to the gaming that I know and love today. Like that last generation for me, that last step was into the mature world of video games. And I had a PS2. I think it's probably the greatest system of all time. PS4 actually might be my favorite system of all time. Those two go back and forth, but It was an unbelievable system. Then I got the PS3 at launch, I got the PS4 at launch, and then the PS5 at launch. So I would say my history with PlayStation is I'm a PlayStation fanboy, and I've been that way since 2001. And I've always cheered for PlayStation to beat the competition. I just always have. And now I love all the systems. I have Xbox on my PC, I have Switch, and I always, like every gamer, have a sweet spot for Nintendo. But PlayStation, for the majority of like my adult life, has been the number one console for me, and I'm always hyped whenever they do good and they have big press conferences. I always look more forward to Sony than anything else.
So Sony is safe to say you're the home team.
That's my home team. Exactly.
Same thing for me. That's how I categorize it as well. Like, I love Nintendo, but Nintendo does not like give me the same consistency that Sony tends to give me since I was a kid. And so it's like, yeah, I definitely say I'm a PlayStation kid. I came into it. My first system was the original PlayStation. My cousins had gotten the PlayStation 2, and as you know, the PlayStation 2 played PlayStation 1 games, so the PlayStation 1 became obsolete for them. So I remember I looked around, I was like, is that the PlayStation 1 just sitting in the cabinet not being used by anybody? And so they gave it to me. They gave it to me, and that's where the magic happened. Got Spyro 2. That was the first game I've ever beaten. And that was a wrap from there. Ever since then, I have to say as well, like PlayStation is the home team, and everybody else kind of like is, I take them on a case by case basis.
Yep.
Taylor, what is your history of PlayStation?
Okay, this is going to be a wild ride, but I'm a Nintendo fanboy through and through. I'm going to say they're my home team, 100%. I grew up in areas where the PlayStation and or Xbox were not really popular. I grew up in a very Christian part of Pennsylvania. My formative years, at least, my second through fifth grade were in Pennsylvania. Very religious part, Lancaster. And no one had PlayStation anything. Everyone had Game Boys and 64s and GameCubes, but no one had Sony. So I was always just Nintendo. I think the first time I was introduced to Sony was my cousin, who spoilers, don't like very much, a spoiled kid, had one, and I forget what game he was playing. It was a PS1, and he was playing, I feel like a GTA. It may have been PS2. GTA something on the PS2. And I thought it was fucking cool. I was like, damn, I'm getting along with you. We're playing a cool video game. I'm all about this. But I never really thought about Sony. I stuck to Nintendo until I started PC gaming. Actually, I actually moved to PC gaming before Sony. I bought a copy of Fallout 3 for the PC back when they sold discs for PC games. Crazy times.
Oh man.
And
Wow.
I had really wanted to play it, but it was Christmas time. I actually bought it for myself for Christmas, but I didn't get to play it till I got back. It was a weird year. I was working for a local theater, and I took the train back, and it was a birthday where I was old enough to drink. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And my grandfather had gotten me a whole bottle of scotch from Scotland, where he grew up. So I was excited to try liquor, and I had only ever had beer, so I didn't really know how liquor worked. And I'm playing. We had a computer room, and it was a family computer that me and my brother had built, but it was a family computer, so it was in a computer room, which was the crux of this story. I get home. No one else is home. I know my dad's going to be coming home by plane at some point. I'm playing Fallout 3, and I'm like, I'm loving this. I love Fallout 3. I love this game. This is so cool playing it on PC. Playing Fallout 3, and I'm taking shots of this scotch that I just got for my birthday, which coincidentally is around Christmas. So I wake up completely naked on the floor of my computer room, and my dad comes in, And he's like, "You okay? Everything all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got bit by a spider on this train home." And I just started making up stuff. And he's like, "Oh, okay, well, I'll get some like anti-itch cream or something on the way home." And he did, nice. But I was at that moment I realized I wanted to game. I wanted to game in my own room. I had a TV. I don't know why I didn't game in my room. I had Nintendo games, but I didn't, I was in high school, so I wasn't playing Nintendo as much. Um, so a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, and I wanted to play Sonic 06, and he had a PS3, and I'm playing with him on his PS3, and like you said, Cole, where it was like mature. You felt mature. I saw the PS3 and I'm like, this looks beautiful. I love that thing. It was so shiny and sleek,
Yeah,
and it looked futuristic. And even though we were playing a really shitty video game, I was having a blast. I loved the controller. I loved looking at it. So I went out, I saved up some money and bought one, put it in my room. And again, it was at a time. It was frankly at a time where I was getting into meeting people online and befriending people on the internet. And Nintendo, as much as I love Nintendo, people who meet you and share their friend codes with you at conventions and stuff are not the greatest people. They really aren't. They're weirdos. And that goes for me too. I'm a fucking weirdo. I wouldn't want to befriend me. But I didn't like the people I met on Nintendo friend code sharing websites and stuff like that. But PlayStation and Grand Theft Auto 5, even though it's still coming out, it came out back then, and I played the fuck out of it with people I met on the internet, and I had a blast. And it really did feel like me moving up to adulthood, and now I've receded back into Nintendo, just because I like nostalgia, Duke of nostalgia. But oh god, I really like the PS3. I didn't play a lot of games on it, but that's why I'm glad we're going to be talking about the PS4, because I played a lot of games on the PS4.
You know what's funny is that we all entered PlayStation at different phases. Thomas was PlayStation 1, I was PlayStation 2, and you were PlayStation 3. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would assume the mass amount of people moved in on PlayStation 2 because that was the console that really just knocked it out of the park.
Is that still the most sold Sony console or console at all? Or did that
It's
get
the most? It's the most sold Sony, right?
Yeah, I think it's still number one. I think PlayStation 4 is up there. I think
the Wii is still the number one. Well, the 3DS, right, is actually the number one console, I think.
oh no, 3DS
here's
not
the thing.
compared to the DS.
If I remember correctly, the PS2 sold so well in lower developed countries because it was also a DVD player, and that's why the PS3 sold so well, and the PS4 as well, is because of their compatibility with their cheaper accessibility to video content, which was a great move on Sony's part. Really, really smart. But if I remember correctly, the PS2 didn't actually leave production until 2014 or 15.
They're still making they're still making FIFA like 13 and stuff on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a popular system, the PS2. So I completely believe everyone joined in.
It's greater than 155 million units, and number 2 is the Nintendo DS family.
Yeah, that makes sense. But does anyone know? Are their internet services still running? Are there still?
I would,
because I know the DSs have been shut off. DS is no longer supported by their servers, so I would be shocked to find out that Sony still had their internet service up for PS2.
I highly doubt it.
Yeah.
It would I would be shocked if they had them on, but if they did, maybe in some other countries, I don't know. Maybe in some third world countries they're still supporting. I doubt it though. Sony's probably like, that is, no matter how much that costs is not worth it.
It's funny. I say third world countries buying for like the DVD and Blu-ray player. Americans were buying for the Blu-ray player. Like that was like a huge selling point.
It was the cheapest. It was the cheapest DVD player for a long time, and they followed suit with the PlayStation 3. which I kind of
Really
want to get to. Yeah, I kind of want to get to the PlayStation 3 just to build some background into
Sure.
how we got to the PlayStation 4. So,
Sure.
and me and Cole kind of go back and forth on this.
On what now?
With the PlayStation 3. So the PlayStation 3 is most definitely, unequivocally, the least successful PlayStation console. PlayStation 1, I believe, has sold less. I believe. But like PlayStation 1 was the one that started everything.
Yeah.
It's it gets a lot of slack for that. PlayStation 2 is the king as far as sales go. PlayStation 3 started off very, very, very lackluster.
Here, to put it in perspective real quick, PlayStation 2, over 155 million units sold, the best-selling console ever. PlayStation 4, 116, PlayStation, 102, and then PS3 is down at 87. So original PlayStation sold 20 million more units than PS3.
Now, I will say though, there is context to that. One is, and this is not me shelling PlayStation or anything like that. The system came out during the economic recession. It came out.
Oh
It
yeah.
came out smack dab.
No, it came out before because it came out in 2006.
Thanks, Obama.
The recession was 08.
Was
Yeah, the housing crisis happened in 08.
Okay, you're right. We didn't release.
Don't try to skew this now. PlayStation 3 was a disaster, Thomas.
I think all of them besides the Wii, because I think the Xbox 360 sold the same units in totality. And so, Xbox 360 is considered a success. You know what I'm saying?
PlayStation overtook it at the very end.
Right.
But it was struggling the entire time against 360.
And I think that like the Wii won that whole thing mostly because it was the most mainstream of them all and the cheapest of them all. And I think that at that point in time, with the recession, like maybe not at the start of it, but definitely like a big part of like those first couple years.
Yeah.
I think that had a big effect on sales of game consoles in general. Because the Xbox 360, I think at the end, you're right. They both, I think they're like literally in the same amount of like, so it's almost the same amount sold, right?
Yeah, well, a PlayStation actually passed it by like 2 million units by the end, by like 2013. They didn't pass till the very end of the generation. But here from VG Charts, this is an article I pulled up. PlayStation 3 started out, the gap was over 5 million units when PlayStation 3 launched. So Xbox 360 had a very strong launch. PlayStation was already down 5 million to nothing, Then it grew to more than an 8 million gap as PlayStation 3 struggled to take off during launch. So there was those first 3 or 4 years, it really took PlayStation a long time to catch up. And even though it did catch up in the end, it just feels like 360 won that generation.
What was your question?
I wonder if that dip in sales, because that's the what generation is that? Generation 7 for consoles. I wonder if that dip for Xbox and Sony is due to moms against gaming. That sort of group think, that sort of like anti-video game rhetoric really ramped up during the Bush administration, like crazy. So, and hey, no offense to Bush lovers out there, I love myself some Bush, but that's a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I wonder if that sort of rhetoric really hindered that little bump in sales there, because again, like I was talking about with my youth growing up in a pretty Christian conservative part of the States, like not even like just generically, we go to church and we're good, like really hardcore believe the whole every tenement of the Bible sort of people. They got really powerful during those last couple of years of the Bush administration, and they hated video games. But the Wii sold well because it was like cutesy and like, grandma can play bowling. So I'm wondering if that has a little bit, because those numbers are completely eclipsed, I'm sure, by both the Xbox One and the PS4. So I don't.
That's actually a good question. I actually do want to see the Xbox One numbers because Xbox
I got
One,
them right here. If you Xbox One 51 million
that sounds about right.
compared to PlayStation 4 116 million.
Yeah, and I do
Maybe no one likes video games.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I think? I kind of feel like PlayStation 2 was so popular that those first few years people didn't even. I feel like so many people were playing the Maddens, and I don't know. I just feel like the PlayStation 2 bled over so much into that generation. It really staggered the sales. And you remember they launched it at $600. The PlayStation 3 launched at $600
That was
for
the most expensive one, right?
Oh,
But yeah, I guess the most expensive.
Yeah,
And that is severely overpriced. That was a huge mistake by Sony. And
I feel like it
about that
depreciated pretty fast too.
You know what's crazy about that number? They sold it at a loss. That's the crazy
absurd.
part about it. So it's like, and they corrected it later on, and they did it by taking out that PS2 because it literally had a PS2 inside of it, basically.
yeah,
Which was
I think
cost a lot.
I think Thomas is right. I think that the recession really put a damper on that generation.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
because,
as much as we call it the
it was
08 recession.
down the board besides the Wii.
Do what now?
Yeah.
It was behind the board. I mean, Xbox sold better, but I think that in terms of like the Xbox 360 from Xbox original, like there was an increase in sales, but I think that both of them were kind of capped because of just the overall financial climate from like 2008 to around like 2010, 2011.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't really till after that when we finally started to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
And let's be honest, the housing crisis recession wasn't just like literally 2008 forward. It had been ramping up from like 2004.
Right.
Yeah. So it was.
Yes. So I think that had a big effect on it.
Yeah.
But why I wanted to make that point of, because at the start, you're absolutely right. Like Xbox 360 was eating PlayStation's lunch. But I think that generation, that battle, figures, so to speak, that is a tale of two halves. Because at first, yeah, they're getting their asses kicked, for sure. There was a certain point, and I don't remember the year, but there was a press conference that I remember they had for E3. And it was just like, this is coming out, this is coming out, this is coming out, we got Uncharted 2. We have, Little Big Planet. And after that, like around like 2011, 2012, I think they really started to take control of that.
Yeah, and the numbers show that because, if they were down 8 million units, at some point they picked up momentum and they caught up and passed them. So you're right. I mean, the second half was PlayStation's second half.
Right. And I think that leads into PlayStation 4. They were already on. I always make the comparison. And not to get too political, but like with Donald Trump's first start to the presidency, our economy was going up and up and up and up and up. And obviously he wasn't doing anything wrong with that. He was doing the right things. But also with Obama for the last couple months and years, our economy was going up. So it's just we're going up and up and up. We were starting on solid foundation, and we're just building on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what PlayStation was doing. I think PlayStation knew they were in their bag for those last couple of years of PlayStation 3. They knew what they were doing at that point.
Yeah, and so that's a very good. That leads us right into the launch of the PlayStation 4.
Yeah,
which I to this day, to me, the handling of the launch of the PlayStation 4 is one of the most incredible stories and times in gaming I've ever been of my whole life. It was incredible.
It was funny.
It was incredible.
I tuned out.
Man.
That was during my like video game hiatus, where I was just like not really playing that many games. I remember when the PS4 got announced, I was like, cool. And it's I was like, I'm good with my PS3. Like I'm playing some good games on it. I don't need to get the latest and greatest. And then I remember it all changed when I saw Watch Dogs, and I was like,
Sure.
Well,
And then you were disappointed immensely.
so this you remember? I always was saying, that I would always cheer for PlayStation, and I wanted PlayStation to just eat their lunch. I just always had that like home team, feeling. But that E3, man, I remember watching that E3 live on my laptop and just going crazy. I remember like just throwing my hands up. Like I couldn't believe it. I was by myself and I was like pacing around the room because that was, the E3, the famous where Xbox came out. It was going to be all online and it was the most confusing, ridiculous, hindsight that they were actually onto something. It actually turned out that that's kind of the world we live in today. But back then, when they came out, this all online, you have to log on every 24 hours to check the game to make sure you can play it. And people are like, "What in the hell is this?"
And that's so unfortunate because that would have been a really great system.
I know. And PlayStation comes out, even
literally what we do now. Like,
oh yeah,
what we were describing is literally how the consoles function right now.
But they were just too early, I think. At that time, we weren't ready for it. And
like that is the Xbox Series S and the PlayStation 5 disc version. Like that's literally what they are. And it's like they had a good idea, but we were not ready.
And not only that, they came out and remember Xbox was all about PlayStation was games. Xbox was like video, TV, this and that. And PlayStation, they nailed it one thing after the next. Like even the price, people didn't know the price of the PlayStation. PS3 was so expensive. They came out at the end of their conference, $399. Boom. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Everybody, that was a mic drop. Then they said, you want to know how you trade games on PlayStation 4? Watch this. And I got up, threw my stuff down. I was so hyping.
No, that was amazing. That little like YouTube video.
Oh, dude!
It was like because that video was like 30 seconds long, and it's like it has official like PlayStation like branding and everything. Like,
dude, could you imagine? A fly on the wall. Imagine Xbox. Imagine everybody at Xbox sitting back there thinking, "Shit, they got us. It's over." Like that was it, y'all.
Do you remember the mimetic culture of that moment when Xbox said that you couldn't share games? The fury that rained down upon them. There were people booing them at every conference. They were nobody's saint, and it must have just been like a gut instinct thing in that Sony meeting where they're like, let's just fuck them. Let's just get Xbox where they're weak.
We have to let people do it. Why not? Like, why not promote it? Make them look even worse. And that's really
great
what
moment
was about. Just like whatever Xbox is gonna do is gonna just be better on PlayStation 4. You want a system that's going to be reasonably priced. You can pay $500 to get the Kinect and the Xbox One.
God,
you can pay $400 and get a system that the game's gonna look better on.
If you guys ever have time, you can go back and watch. Because remember, this was back in the day when press conferences were live in front of a live crowd. Watch the crowd reaction to the feature announcements in Sony price. They went nuts. And this was like, late the next day after Microsoft had just completely botched theirs. So all the fans were just going absolutely everything Sony said was a huge eruption of applause. That's how incredible it was. Oh man, incredible.
Now I'll throw into that I am not one to buy game consoles when they first come out. I don't even have a PS5. I'm still waiting on it, mostly monetarily, not buying it, but I have a PC, so I'm fine there. The only system I've bought outside of Nintendo, and the only Nintendo system I bought first day was DSi, because some GameStop employee scammed me into doing it. He was like, "Oh, you're buying Pokemon, you should buy DSi. It's going to be better on the DSi." And I believed him and spent that. So Mark Abramowitz in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, GameStop number 22903. I'm coming for you. But the only game system that I bought first day for, I was so pumped for it. Still love it. I still love it. That's honestly one of the reasons I haven't bought a PS5. It's because I still have my PS4 and I'm good. Like you said, Thomas, with your PS3, like, why buy the PS4? I got the PS3. I feel the same way about the PS5 because I got my PS4.
With
Like,
PS4, with the PS4 to PS5, that argument is really strong. You know,
sure.
the PlayStation 4 is still relevant to this day.
Yep.
And that's the beauty of it. You know, for me, I guess I can kind of go into how I got my PS4. So I got it maybe like 6 months after launch. I saw Watch Dogs. I was like, yeah, I need to buy this. I need to get a PS4. And they were sold out at this point. You couldn't just go into the store and just buy one at that point. My friend, I will not name, you will not be named, I promise. He said, "Hey, you want a PS4?" I was like, "Yeah, you can get one." He's like, "Yeah, I can get you one." So I partly didn't believe him, and so we worked together. He shows up at work the next day, like, "Hey, come to the back," and he has a box of he has like 5 PS4s. And I'm like, "Why do you have these?" Like,
Oh, why not?
and so he broke down to me that his cousin works for shipping for GameStop. And so I don't know if they got him legit or illegit. I always was fearful that PS4 would one day just stop working. Like Sony. He said
As long as they come knock on your door during the podcast.
he was selling it for like $600 too. Like he gave me mine for $200 because we were friends.
200.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I was honestly I was like, this might not work at some point in time. This might just cut off. Like Sony's like, come on, bro, you know. So, but it lasted me. That PS4 lasted a good amount of time. It lasted about 4 or 5 years. So, yeah, that's my story. Cole, how'd you get yours?
Launch. Man, I'm a launch guy. I love launch. There is nothing I love more than video game launches. And I've gotten the Switch at launch, the PS3, PS3. I told that story, reminisce. That's when I was out in the 17-degree weather waiting on that thing outside of a Walmart. PS4 was a launch Best Buy. And to my surprise, the best PS4 launch game that I loved was Resogun. I thought that was the best game. I remember getting that and Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I played the PS4 version of that one.
Well, let's get into it because I have a list of the games per year. Let's kind of go into that launch window a little bit. Yeah, so you named two. One Assassin's Creed. I do associate Assassin's Creed Black Flag with PlayStation because that is one of
yeah.
Because even though it wasn't like a next gen game, it was on PlayStation 3, Xbox 360. But like that was like, oh, this is Assassin's Creed kind of next gen now.
And that was the first year we got the cross-gen launch games,
Yeah.
With PlayStation 4, we had it. From PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3, I don't think that we didn't have any like PlayStation 2 games that were up-res for PS3. That didn't happen.
It's different circumstances because the PS3 could play PS2 games. So you had a game like God of War 2 launch on PlayStation 2, and you could play that on your PS3.
Mm-hmm.
This time, that was not the case.
Yeah.
That PS4,
that's right.
Play PS4 games, so they're getting PS3 sales, getting PS4 sales, and up-resing nothing. Right. It was a dark time in gaming. It was. From that standpoint, it was pretty dark. But Assassin's Creed Black Flag is one of those games that had a simultaneous PS3, PS4 release. I have the launch window actually. One of the games that kind of was an interesting game that kind of like failed, but at the same time, like, put Guerrilla Studios in a different direction was Killzone Shadowfall. I don't know if y'all have any history of Killzone.
Nope.
I played the launch game just because it was so pretty. I had to get it and I had to play it. And I just, I thought it was okay. But like I said,
like looks wise, the game, it's the worst Killzone. I didn't play the first one, but I played 2 and 3, and this was definitely the worst one from a story perspective. And it was literally just a game, but it looked nice. But I think it launched Guerrilla into different territory because I think that showed them, oh, this series is dead. So that was a launch window game. Also, do y'all remember Flower?
Yeah, I love Flower.
That was a PS3 game, though, right? It was
that was
upscaled.
easy.
I think it was upscaled to PS4.
Like Journey.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it was like Flower HD or something like that. But
I
yeah,
first
that
played
was
it
a.
on the PS4. Yeah,
How'd you like it? I never played it. I have it, but never played it. How'd you
I
like it?
like Journey. It's just sort of like easy to smoke a bunch to and just sit back and enjoy the ride. It's not crazy, but it's
It always seemed like
relaxing.
a tech demo to me.
Hmm?
It always seemed like a tech demo, like a tech demo ish. Like it looks beautiful, but it's just like you're just.
Uh, I think it falls more into line with like art games, like Journey, and what's the new one, Azure? Like the ocean one where you go underwater and you swim around. There's dolphins and whales and kelp and stuff. Abzu, that's the one. I think it's like those where it's like it's just an experience. It's not like a demo per se, but I think it's a little bit lackluster to be a demo. But I think they're all just like artistic, depthful games where you're supposed to sit down, drink a little, and really think about existence when you play them. So some of the few like art games that I think are actually successful are like Flower and Journey, and Abzu.
Yeah, so I think what's crazy, I think Cole, you said the game that stands out amongst these is Resogun. I think that this is safe to say this is a very weak launch window, like a launch day. This is pretty weak as far as like a list of games. I don't remember it being this bad.
I remember it being bad I remember playing Contrast, which that was just kind of like a DLC game, a little downloadable game. But Resogun was shocking because I played the crap out of that game at launch and platinumed it.
It looked really nice too. It looked like a next gen game. Like I played the PS3 version of that game and it looks horrible. Like it does not look well at all. So that was, I think, of all the games, that's the shining launch game. But I mean,
so it's weird.
PlayStation got no games.
So when did PlayStation like find its footing? Because the launch was extremely weak.
I would say, and it didn't really improve much in 20
for a while.
Yeah, I can kind of go over some of the games that came out 2014.
Yeah.
One, and this is one of my favorite games of all time, but it's technically not always associated with PlayStation 4. It's The Last of Us Remastered. That's the first time I ever played Last of Us. I didn't play it on PS3. That was the first time I ever experienced that game. And I mean, that to me, that was an experience. And it ran at 60 frames. I think that was literally the first time I experienced a 60 frames per second game that I was aware of. Where I'm like looking at this, like this game looks gorgeous. And so for a long time, that was my favorite PlayStation 4 game because there really wasn't much else to speak of, unfortunately. Like 2014 really didn't see much else. Do y'all remember anything from 2014?
No, it's 2015. I'm looking at my games right now, and the date on all of my games are 2015.
So before we go to 2015, the 2014, so it was the year of the Last of Us Remaster and the Grand Theft Auto Remaster. So those two games were probably huge. It was the 2013 repeat because Last of Us and GTA came out in 2013. Then they remastered them for PS4 in 2014.
There's two games I want to talk about. One is Infamous Second Son. I feel like that game gets forgotten.
Oh yeah,
I forgot that game.
Totally forgot that game.
Yeah, it was.
I loved that game.
It was. I liked it, but it was very forgettable.
I platinumed that game. I thought it was really fun. I loved all the powers. I really loved Infamous Second Son. I totally forgot about it though. So to your point, it is kind of forgettable.
It has an 80% on Metacritic. I feel like that's about right. Like it came out, it was a solid game. Definitely wasn't a bad game by any means. It looked beautiful. The world was very, 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 very empty. But the neon effects of that game, I thought did a good job showcasing, what next gen console gaming could be. So yeah, I have fond memories of that. And the other game was a multi-plat, but still, like I played on PlayStation. Wolfenstein: The New Order.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that came out May 2014. I really, really like that game. It's hard as hell, but
Good
I really
game though.
like that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it wasn't until 2015, it doesn't seem like, until PlayStation 4 really took off.
And when we get to 2015, we're getting
It's just
some pretty substantial releases.
they just knock it out of the fucking park.
This was all right. So I guess we can start with one I know you have a lot of love for, Cole, Bloodborne. I don't know
Yeah,
if you have love for it, Taylor.
one of my favorite games of all time. My 3 favorite games of all time, and 2 of them are released on PlayStation 4. Was Rocket League was 2015, and which we can talk about, whatever. I always want to talk about that. But Bloodborne, and Bloodborne completely came out of left field for me. Quick story: my buddy bought this game, and I knew about Dark Souls and stuff. I never got into it, so my buddy told me, he was like, "Man, I got the game, got Bloodborne because I knew it had launched. I knew there was a bunch of hype around it, but I was like, I'm probably not gonna like it. It's really dark and stuff." He called me. He was like, "Dude, I got this game Bloodborne, and you start out and you're in this doctor's office. You go down these stairs, and there's a werewolf, and I just cannot beat him. He just keeps tearing me up. But he didn't know how to equip a weapon. I think that's what it was. And like, he spent 2 hours trying to beat the werewolf at the very first section of Bloodborne. So yeah, in that first room."
Yeah.
Like right when you
That's
wake up.
that's why I don't like going to the doctor's office.
Was it Safka's clinic or whatever where you wake up? I think.
Yeah,
the name of that place?
Yeah.
Anyway,
he played it for
yes,
2
like 2
hours?
hours. And I was like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Dude, this game is crazy."
No way. There's no way I'm googling that. After 3 times I'm dead, I'm googling that. There's no way.
Yeah, dude, he couldn't figure it out.
It's weird to equip your weapons. Like no other game does it like a Souls game does. So
Yeah.
I can see that, but still, like 2 hours.
I'm
Dude,
gonna say I'm not good at video games, but I definitely got past that wolf like in like 20 minutes max.
Well, but so when you first come down there, like it was something I had never seen in a game. That wolf is flying around the room, everything's breaking. It was incredible, but I wanted to platinum Bloodborne, and it turned out to be one of my favorite games of all time.
It's a great game. I put in a good amount of time to Bloodborne. I never beat it. I appreciate Souls games and I always like the combat. I just never stick with them for long enough to actually like beat them. But Bloodborne was the first one that I tried out and it's a great game. It has its own style to it that is kind of like gothic, which I don't think they've gone back to. I think that was like their only foray into that. So it has like a very unique style to it that I've always appreciated, and I understand why people like put that as their favorite From Software game because it's so different than anything else they've done. And PlayStation has that as an exclusive, so it's like that. I feel like Bloodborne was the first game where it's like, all right, this is the reason why you need to buy a PS4. Xbox kind of had like Sunset Overdrive, I believe. Like there was a couple games that came out, that are, okay, you should get this. It's cool, but Bloodborne, I feel like is the game that's kind of stood the test of time, to say the least. But there are some other games that released that year, multi-plats for sure. But I mean, you can talk about The Witcher 3. You can talk about
Great
Metal
game.
Gear Solid 5, Metal Gear Solid 5. Oh my god, that's a moment.
Masterpiece.
My friend failed his classes because of Metal Gear Solid 5. I used to walk
Kojima.
I used to walk into his dorm and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm just, getting mother base set." I'm like, I'm just like, "Oh, bro, like, we have a test, bro. Like, you're trying to."
Hey, it's important. Take down Metal Gear. He was right.
Look, man,
Your friend,
that game was amazing.
right.
Though. Like as far as gameplay, that is to me the best stealth game of all time.
I loved real quick because I think that's one of my top like 10 games is Metal Gear Solid 5. I love contrarians. I'm naturally a contrarian, but I can't be with this game. But I know a lot of people who'll come out of the woodwork and go, but like, oh, but the last act of the game is so like, it's so like rushed and like put together. I'm like, but did you play the rest of the game? I don't think has any game wowed you in the last like hour of the game, the story. I don't think so.
I'll make
And
excuses for Metal Gear Solid 5 for sure. Yeah, I agree with you. I make excuses for it, even though in a lot of ways it doesn't deserve them. Because
I think
that part 2 is bad. I'm not gonna hold it. It is bad. Cole, do you have any experience with Metal Gear Solid 5?
Yeah, I think the game, I played about half of it and I just fell off of it because it was just so deep. I want to go back to it, and I've really considered going back to that game like within the past week. So I want to go back and play it.
It's an amazing game. It's probably the best gameplay in the whole franchise. So yeah, I played that on PlayStation 4. I
Me too, yeah.
that game. You know, it just capturing like it reminded me of Pokemon. Of capturing like
the people,
yeah,
and the animals,
like, a little thing because you're looking at, because like when you're in a Pokemon, like when you're in the bushes and you get a lot of Pokemon and it's like, I don't want to capture this one, like I already have them, it's level
you
whatever.
stick them on the balloon, they're flying up, you second guess it and you shoot them down.
Oh, you can do that?
Yeah, you can do anything in that game.
I didn't know you could shoot.
Yeah, no,
it's hilarious.
While they're going up, you can shoot the strings attached to the balloon. I think you can do anything you really. If you want to go stupid in that game, go stupid in that game. I love that you can. That's why I like Breath of the Wild so much as well. Like both those games, same year. You could do any stupid thing you wanted, and you could make it work. You could break the game without making the game feel bad, which was awesome.
Well, and that's why I like GTA so much. It's all that emergent gameplay. It's just. You can do anything, and there's the physics and stuff. They're amazing.
Now, another game that launched that year that is a PlayStation exclusive was the updated version of the Uncharted series, the Nathan Drake collection.
Also a masterpiece. We talked about it a little last week. You guys weren't here, but we did touch on Uncharted. I was a little drunk, but. Ben and Alfredo talked about it. No, great. It's really good. Everything Uncharted is good, I think. So.
And those are pretty good remaster too, because it put it at 60 frames. Yeah. It contained all 3 games. I still don't think the first one holds up very well, but 2 and 3 are masterpieces. To me, those are 10 out of 10 games, both of them. So yeah,
I'm gonna go on a limb. Well, we're speaking PS4 games. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that Uncharted 4 is also a masterpiece. A lot of people take issue with some of the story elements of it, but I don't like that. I think it's some of the best characterization of Nathan Drake, his brother, his wife, etc. And it's some of the best gameplay. I really enjoy the gameplay in Uncharted 4.
Me too.
We're cheating by skipping to 2016, but I agree with you.
Is that 2016? Wow. I swore that was 2015. Okay.
No, it's 20. But we'll cheat. It's all good. Okay. I love Uncharted 4 as well. The thing is, though, I think the story I think it has pacing issues toward the end.
I think it has pacing issues towards the beginning as well. Like I'll settle with you.
I don't mind the beginning so much. I don't mind it so much because I think I get it. You gotta build 2 things. You gotta build Sam, and you also have to build Nathan's like dissatisfaction with like life right now. So I understand why that kind of felt a little, kind of slow. The end, like when you're just like you're going through the tombs and everything, it's just like I'm trying to get to the end now. Like I felt like when I have to look at my watch for a game, I'm like, all right. So that's my only criticism of it. Besides that, best gameplay in the whole series, best multiplayer in the whole series.
Best settings. There's something I really like about how like one chapter you're in Scotland and it's like dreary and bleak and like everything's blue and like there's water everywhere. Next chapter you're in Africa and everything's bright and red and I'm like there's no 2 like perfect juxtapositions for like story. You go from like bleak rainy to bright and sunny and like the color you automatically know you've moved on in the story. I love the settings for Uncharted 4 too. I really feel like you're like traveling the globe, and I really want to feel like I'm Indiana Jones.
Me too. Yeah.
So yeah.
I love that. I love that game. I would say I don't know if I give it a 10 out of 10 like I would 2 and 3, but it's right there. It's like 9. You know, it's a 9. Like I really do appreciate that game.
I had the most fun with it, but I'd probably say like there's probably some stuff I'd go back and say maybe this isn't like the best.
Yeah.
It's just the one that I remember the best. So,
Cole, do you have any history in Uncharted 4?
Yeah, I loved it. That's my favorite one out of all of them. Uncharted 2 was awesome. You know, it's got the plane and the train in the snow. But Uncharted 4 I thought it was a masterpiece too. I really did.
It's the biggest.
Yeah, and it's not like one of my favorite games of all time. But not even probably in my top 10 on PS4. That's how strong PS4 is. But I think the game's a 10 out of 10. It was unbelievable. I remember the end of the game when you find all the skeletons and they're sitting around the table. Like that scene was awesome. I don't particularly remember what was going on, but it was like they were all sitting around, and it was towards the end of the game. It was all like the kings or pirate kings or something. I can't remember what happened. The end of the game though, I loved like the fight on the ship with the burning ship. I thought that was cool.
I love that because this treasure that they were trying to get the whole time, they're just like fighting now. Like
it was awesome. I thought it was cool.
Matter, like and that's like the point of the story. Like none of this other shit matters. Like family matters.
Yeah,
and I love that end.
Yeah, Thomas, where do you want to go next? Just because I don't want to derail you too much. I have like a tiny story.
I just wanted to talk about Until Dawn.
Was that 2015?
That's 2015. I think that's the last game of note. Sorry to anybody who has another game from 2015 that they love. I know Life is Strange came out that year, but I associate that with everything. Yeah, Until Dawn. I love that game because it was most times when I'm playing a game, like a single player game at least, like it's not really fun to have another person in the room like there with me. For them at least, it's not fun for them because it's like you're gonna watch me play, Metal Gear Solid. I'm just gonna bolting some people out. That's not enjoyable to watch. Like, it's fun a couple times, I'm sure, but like you don't want to watch me play this. Until Dawn, we're passing the controller around. Like we're like it's like we're watching a long ass movie.
That's fair.
I love that game. That game, and I liked Telltale games before that, but after that, it gave me a new appreciation for this genre. Because that was more like a Scream, more like that era of horror movie, and I don't think we've ever had that in a video game before. So I have a lot of love for Until Dawn. Can't say much about the sequels. Haven't really played those. I played a little bit, didn't like them, but it started off strong at the very least. So, but yeah, that was it as far as 2015. Unless Cole has anything else from 2015.
Okay, so just a few notables though, like The Witcher 3 came out. We can talk about that forever. I mean, it's incredible. Batman Arkham Knight was that year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a good game. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
a little repetitive. Super repetitive
with the tank. But besides that, it's an awesome game.
And these are multi-platforms.
Oh, that was the one with the tank?
Yeah.
God, I hated that. Oh, that sucked.
I liked it at first until I realized, this is all we're gonna do for the end game, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. It sucks because like the most hype part of that game was the Batmobile, and the worst part of that game was the Batmobile.
Yeah.
Right.
So Star Wars Battlefront was that year too, which it was mediocre, but talk about the best looking game ever. When you played it, it was beautiful.
It looked amazing, yeah.
It was, but now I'm not. So 2015 Rocket League came out, and I know I'm. This is not. It's not going where you think it's going, because I know that you guys are like, oh, geez, he's talking Rocket League again.
He hates Rocket League.
But the story that I'm trying to get to is that PlayStation this generation is when we started seeing PlayStation Plus really become incredible. The value of PlayStation Plus, I don't know whether it really ramped up in 2014 or 2015, but Rocket League is a testament to how incredible PlayStation Plus was.
I think 2015 for sure, because Rocket League, I think that was the first time where a game was launching with PlayStation Plus.
Yeah. And it was just an incredibly successsul story.
You make a good point. That's when like the internet capabilities of Sony became like.
But like, and that's when everyone started talking about the story was before PlayStation Plus was terrible, but Sony really started knocking it out of the park, and people were really in disbelief this early in PlayStation 4. The console, we couldn't believe the kind of games we were getting with PlayStation Plus. Do y'all remember? I remember the value was incredible. Just looking through here, that year, Sony gave out over $1,000 worth of free games on PlayStation Plus. Infamous First Light was one.
That's how I played First Light. I didn't have it, and I remember I got it for PlayStation Plus. I was like, oh, I really like this.
Yeah, Transistor was another one on PlayStation Plus. Rocket League, Guacamelee was a release on PlayStation Plus. Ground Zeroes Metal Gear Solid 5 was a PlayStation Plus release.
Mm-hmm.
So that year, I think that's important to note about the PlayStation 4 console, that PlayStation Plus really busted out of the seams.
I feel embarrassed about PlayStation Plus. What was the game you played as like an assassin? You jumped around. It was not Assassin's Creed. It was made by Bethesda, I believe. Huh?
Thief?
No, I don't remember what it was called. No. All I'm saying is there was one game that I heard middling reviews on, so I got PlayStation Plus to play it for free, and I hated it, and I didn't play it very much.
It was made by Bethesda?
Huh?
It was made by Bethesda for sure?
I'm not sure about that. It just seemed like a Bethesda game.
You're an assassin.
You're an assassin. It's not very well received. I've derailed the whole thing. It's not Thief, no. But I never actually took advantage of PlayStation. Dishonored.
Oh,
That's the one.
I got you. Dishonored is published by Bethesda.
Mm-hmm. Published by Bethesda. Okay. Yeah, no, I got PlayStation Plus to play that for free because I wanted to give it a shot, and that's literally the only game I ever played with it.
I still have that
Spoilers.
one. That's funny. I got it from PlayStation Plus too. It's on my PS3, just cooling. Never ever got around. I tried it out, and I was like, I really, really, really hate this world.
I didn't like it either. I did not like it.
That's fine. I hate. Shout out to Ben, because I know Ben loves those games, and I have a renewed interest to maybe try them out, and I'll get to that maybe later in the podcast. But yeah, no, that was released on PlayStation Plus, and I think that was really the appeal of PlayStation Plus. It's almost like how Game Pass is now, where it's I wouldn't have picked this game up, but I get it for free once a month, so it's I'll play it. So yeah, a lot of games definitely fall into that for me.
Yeah.
Funny how Dishonored was. You ended up not liking Dishonored?
No, I didn't. No. And I never bothered with PlayStation Plus again because of it. It tainted it, and I was also poor, really poor. So I said not worth. I'll get Netflix, but not this.
That was me during my Call of Duty days, so PlayStation Plus was a must. There was no decision. PlayStation made. That was one thing about this generation that was interesting. This was the first time where PlayStation had their online service, and you had to pay for it.
Yeah, I hated that.
I hated it too. But I did it. I paid every month. It was a bill.
Before we move on to the next year, something we did forget to mention it was a multi-platform game, but it really was a part of the story of PlayStation 4. The early years was Destiny.
Oh yeah.
That was pretty much at launch. Was that 2014?
Pretty sure it was 2014.
That was 2014.
That was pretty big.
Here.
That's what carried me in the early PlayStation days.
See, I got to level 30 and said, no. This is not what I thought it was going to be.
It's not.
I swear that was false advertising what they did with that game.
It was, because it looked but those early trailers, it looked so grand and adventurous and exploration. I thought we would be
flying around in space.
I know, me too. Yeah. No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky
No Man's Sky's come back. I'll give that. This hasn't come back. I'll be honest. I got this game for free. A customer of mine who liked me got me this game, and I never played it.
I think the game's special though. Like I really do. I think the game is special, and Destiny, the first experience was special. It wasn't what we thought it was going to be for a lot of gamers, but it found its groove, and I played a lot of it. I think it's a special game. It's not as special as it could have been, but
When did Titanfall come out?
I was like 2015, I think.
But it
2015.
wasn't on PlayStation. Yeah,
It was an Xbox exclusive, but that
Yeah.
Destiny makes me think of Titanfall, and the fact that I really wanted to play Titanfall. Nothing about this game made me want to play it. Titanfall made me go like, why did I buy a PS4? I
Titanfall.
want to.
Titanfall
Yeah.
was pretty fun. Whenever I played it, like it was like I didn't have Xbox One, but when I did play it, that game had an interesting hook to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Destiny to me was just very bland. Destiny 1 I'm talking about. Destiny 1 just was kind of bland to me, where I was like, the combat's cool, of course, because it's Bungie, but this is a abysmal story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is definitely worth saying. I'm glad you brought it up because that was a big monumental release, and that was one of the big releases from, I believe, 2014, right?
Yep. Anyway, all right, we can move on to 2016 if y'all want to.
And we already got the big dog out the way. We got Uncharted 4 out the way.
I thought you were gonna say Rocket League. Just kidding.
2015, right?
Yeah, it was 2015.
But for 2016, we got big dog Uncharted 4. That's gone. We talked about that. Monumental game, great game. Probably the best game so far. You know what I'm saying? Like at 2016, that was probably the best game for PS4 released, I'd say. But you got some good games from this year. You got Inside. I've just played that this year. But
It's a good little game. Yeah.
Great game. I wish I had played it on PS4, but a lot of people didn't. That's the second rated PlayStation 4 game on Metacritic. Overwatch came out that year. I wish we had Alfredo here, but
that was a PC game for me.
I thought for most people it probably was, right?
Yeah. I don't count it as a PS4 game because I think the majority of people focused on it as PC.
And as I'm looking through this list for 2016, it looks a little weak compared.
It is 2017.
Yeah, it does look a little weak.
2017 and 18.
So
2017. Yeah, we'll get to 2017.
All right.
Something
2017 has a lot, but we have Ratchet and Clank for this year.
Yeah.
I love that game. I don't think I platinumed it, but I was very close to platinum in that game. I loved it on release. It came out at a very specific time where I was at school, away in school, but it was the summertime when I bought the game, and nobody was at school at this point in time. Like none of my friends were there. I was doing summer school, so literally just coming home to my apartment, just playing this game, for a couple weeks. Like I really do love this game. I think Cole, you said it, that it doesn't hold up that well, and it's like kind of unmemorable. I remember you said that to me, and I'm like, I do see that, but I do think it's a positive release for PlayStation for sure.
Yeah. Let's can we cut right here? I got a piece so bad.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm loving the conversation, but
That gives me a chance to look.
Yeah.
Do you remember Gravity Rush?
Yeah, and I played a little bit of it. I played the demo. Was there a demo of that? I want to say there was.
It might have been. I never played it, but I always thought it looked interesting. I'm like, you can just fly.
Yeah, that was pretty. I remember feeling the way you would fly and land and stuff was pretty cool, but
anime feel to it as well, which I appreciated. So I always wanted to play it, but I was like, I never played Gravity Rush Run. I don't know if I'm gonna do it.
A lot of people loved it though. Like it was a kind of a sleeper hit, like a cult classic almost. Like there's a lot of people really into that.
When did it come out? I'm looking right now.
Probably 2016.
I'm looking for it in Metacritic and it's not showing it, but I'm pretty sure it was 2016. Let me see.
Are we cutting this part out right here?
Probably. We'll see. If not, then we'll just So Gravity Rush came out in 2017, but it came out like at the literal start. It came out in January.
Yeah. So yeah, it felt like 2016. Looking at 2016 looks like a year of disappointment because you said first,
Yeah, Uncharted 4 though, so it wasn't
yeah,
like,
but these three, the ones I'm about to mention, are like underwhelming
oh,
to what we thought they would be.
you know what
So
you're talking about? The Last Guardian.
that's what I'm about to. That was what I was kicking off with.
Oh, all right, I'll leave
So,
that.
so the Last Guardian, No Man's Sky, and Final Fantasy 15,
Oh, when did No Man's Sky come out?
2016.
I'm looking for a Metacritic. I'm like, that probably would be low. Now I think about it.
Yeah, so that was one of my most hyped games I have ever been. Like, besides Grand Theft Auto, that's my most hyped game of all time, No Man's Sky. And
See,
wow, was I let down.
Something about it, I was like, this is smoke and mirrors. I'm like, you're telling me there's 12 people working on this game, and it's about to be endless. Like, something about it. And I remember seeing it in previews. I was just like, it does. I don't see it. Like, I don't.
It was endless, but it was endless to what point? Like, there was nothing. It was so bland, you know?
Yeah, it was like literally just throwing a world into a random generator. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'll never forget, that was the first time I ever seen the Jurassic Park meme. You know, where I love it whenever I see it. When like they'll show like how it's supposed to look, and it'll be like the orchestrated theme, like da, 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 and then like you show the actual gameplay, and it's just like it's just like just like playing on the clarinet or whatever. And like, that's the first time I've seen it for No Man's Sky, like showing what it was supposed to be, and showing like it was like some like,
I remember it, dude.
It was like dinosaur. Like,
it was either the clarinet or it was like pixel. It was like it was ridiculous.
that was the first time I've seen that. I'm like,
that's funny.
Yeah, that game did not. That's not how it's supposed to look.
It wasn't. But I was so hyped for that game. And wow, did the PlayStation embrace that game too? You remember they had the E3 that year. They did a live concert for No Man's Sky at the E3 that year.
Well, if the No Man's Sky that's out now released back then it would have been well worth the hype.
Yeah,
I mean, I you know the story behind that game, right?
Dude, that was my most hyped game of all time. I followed that game. I was part of the Reddit before it was released. I was on message boards. I was all in on that.
I was hanging out with a friend I never really hang out with, and he pulled up that trailer, and I was so hyped for it. But the story behind it is pretty funny when it comes to what we were talking about, Thomas. I guess we can keep this all in, because it sounds like you had a good conversation. But the story is it was really just an indie game. It wasn't supposed to be this grandiose sort of thing. And really just Sony showed up one day with a bag of money and said, "We want this. Here you go. You have to do the press circuit now." And they fucked up bad because I don't remember the guy's name.
Sean Murray.
Sean Murray. He's awkward. He's socially awkward to the extreme. So he didn't really grasp having to go, like, there's a clip of him like on Stephen Colbert, and I'm like, that's a lot of pressure for a guy.
Dude, he was everywhere for that game.
I feel bad for him. They did that to him. Like, they're like, I guess you kind of do have to do that for a game like that because you got to promote it, and it's like not a brand. And that game did not help that game at all.
Sony pushed that game too hard, and it's no fault of theirs because it seemed like such a cool concept. And I do think they fixed the game. I think they fixed the game a lot. I give them a lot of credit for where the game is now. I'm really excited
free
to play
too, so they didn't charge anything.
No, I'm really excited to play the new update, but really seeing him being interviewed by like Stephen Colbert, who isn't a gamer. He's not like a gamer guy. He's just asking him, he's like, are you going to be able to see, like, you're going to be able to go underwater, or are you going to be able to do this? Are you going to be able to do that? And Sean Murray's like, yeah, sure, yeah. It's not
19.
Yeah,
I remember they were pitching it like, so I remember Stephen Colbert was pretty much like, well, you can just do anything then. And Sean Murray was like, yeah. He had this little awkward thing, and that was the whole thing about it. Like, it was just so, the messaging was not there. I remember one of the stories was, is there multiplayer? And they were like, yes, but the universe is so big, it would take people weeks, months, years to find someone. Well, within 2 days of the release, there was already people like going towards the same solar system. And I remember there was like the story developing like, they're going to meet each other sometime soon. And they finally got to each other. And it was like, it was not even the same planet or something. It was like,
and you mentioned Reddit. Like Reddit did a lot to like bolster that game and get it popular and get it like into the mainstream, but it also did a lot to kill it. Reddit was definitely the community on Reddit was like, this game is not what we wanted, so let's destroy it. And I think it's a little bit undeserved, but I'm glad they did the mature thing, which was let's fix the game for free and really make ourselves like heroes. Because like Fallout 76 did the opposite. They made themselves enemies by trying to quote unquote fix the game for more money.
Yeah.
So
I think CD Projekt Red should take notes from how Hello Games did that process. The one other game I want to mention from 2016 that I don't know if means a lot to me is the right way to put it. I put a good amount of hours in this game. I can't say it's one of my favorite games. More so disappointed me than anything else, but I put a lot of time in. Final Fantasy 15.
Good game. Cool game.
I can't say good game. I can say solid experience.
Sure.
That's as far as I can go because
it is unique.
Because it was cool for the first 10 mission I don't know how they count. Was it levels? I don't know how they count. Like there was clearly like it was chapters. That's what.
Yeah.
It was. After chapter 10, I was like, oh no, this is not where this is not living up to the hype now. Like it started off well, and then it just kind of devolved into, okay, we're just going to shit out the bare minimum now.
Yeah, Final Fantasy nonsense.
I put a lot of time into the game though, and I thought it started off very, very great. So just had to mention it. Besides that, I think we are prepared to get into the big guns.
2018.
2017.
Shit. Yeah, that's a good year too.
2018, I think, is like, the year, but 2017 gave us some really great stuff.
Yeah.
And Cole and me started off with talking about Gravity Rush. Solid game from what I can see. Didn't sell well, and we'll probably never get a Gravity Rush 3, but glad it came out. Maybe we'll pick it up one day. The game I want to talk about first, though, you already know. Horizon Zero Dawn is such... Oh, man. Like, when it came out, I didn't appreciate it. Because when it came out, I remember I was playing and I was like, this is cool. Then I get my Switch and I'm playing Zelda and I'm like, this is the perfect open world. You know what I'm saying? I love how Nintendo did Breath of the Wild. Yeah. But then when I go back to Horizon and I'm like, I really, really love how Guerrilla is telling this story. Because Guerrilla, my friend, doesn't like open world games. Horizon is like, it's an open world game, but you do not have to play it like that. Like you can literally just go from mission to mission, just go to the different destinations and don't even have to do any of the side quests.
It's like the polar opposite of The Witcher.
Yeah. It's like an action RPG, but like real light on the RPG aspect. And I think that it really did find a niche for itself. It was kind of like, those Ubisoft games, like a little bit. But I do think that it kind of hit that right chord as far as the story goes. I think Aloy is a really great character. And just for it being a new franchise, I think it did really well.
Yeah, and this is to me where Sony kicks off, really starts knocking it out of the park. Yeah. And this was a new franchise. And they had hyped it up like crazy. Everyone was hyped for it, and they just delivered on this game.
Yeah.
And I will say this: I think it's one of the best video game stories I've ever been a part of. I thought it was incredible, and I was not expecting that at all.
Incredible, because it tells some dual stories.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Because you're obviously dealing with the tribe stuff, but also just going into the history of this world. I'm like, man,
God, it's such a beautiful world. God, so beautiful.
So yeah, that's a great. I'm glad you have physical copy, Taylor. So but I love that game.
This actually isn't mine. I didn't buy this. I got it from a sex pervert who's now in jail, so he's not getting it back.
Oh man!
I traded it for. I lent him Breath of the Wild for this. I lent him Breath of the Wild for this because I love Breath of the Wild. No, I got it back. He played it. He hated it. He's like, oh, this game sucks. He gave it back, and I'd never got around to playing Horizon Zero Dawn. Well, he hated that and gave it back. So I was like, oh, I'll give it back eventually. I get back to it eventually, and then he went to jail. So I'm like, oh, cool. I never have to get it back. Actually, I very specifically checked his court documents to find out how long he's going to be in jail, and it's pretty much life at this point. So I'm like, oh, sweet, thank God. This is mine now.
PlayStation 14.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. So interesting. Interesting to say the least.
little.
Oh man, I'm glad you got your game back. But
I am too.
Now, another game that came out this year that completely captured me, Persona 5. Persona 5 is one of those games that, to me, it's like when I think of JRPG, there's pre-Persona 5 and there's post-Persona 5 for me. Persona 5 literally takes everything that I love about JRPGs and puts so much style, like more style than any other video game I've ever played in my life.
A friend of mine, when trying to convince me to play Persona 5, described it as like what Final Fantasy or Pokemon should be, which is
more Pokemon than Final Fantasy. But yeah.
Intellectually stimulating is kind of what he was getting at, and I kind of agree. Like,
let me ask you guys this: is it open world?
No.
I mean, not really. No, it's like when you like basically it's more like a dating sim. That's an RPG.
Yeah.
Like
I want to play.
Like, you would love it. Whatever you want to do during the day, like so. You have these interpersonal relationships with people in the town and your party members, and you choose to do what you want to do for the day. So if you want to go and complete a mission, which is the RPG elements, you can go do that. Or if you want to go and like go play pool with one of your party members, you can do that. And when you do that, it increases your relationship with that party member, which in turn makes them better in combat.
Cool.
So I love the systems that are in Persona because it makes it so you can skip the interactive sim stuff if you want to, but combat's going to be a lot harder if you do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I love it for that standpoint. It's basically like an anime video game, because it's super anime, but I think it has a really good story as well. And the only issue I have with it is pacing issues toward the end because that game is long as hell.
Yeah. What else you got for this year? I'm trying to remember the 2017 games.
Okay, I got one.
Go ahead.
Fortnite. Fortnite released this year, and it released.
Cut this.
Hold on, it was solely on PS4, I think. It was on PC too.
Xbox as well.
It was on Xbox too.
Mm-hmm.
Was it really 2017? Is it what year?
2017.
2021. Okay.
Now I would argue.
Save the World came out. Save the World was the.
To me, this was the game that I wish it still was when it first came out.
Yeah.
This was the Wild West. It was the Battle Royale, and no one could build like crazy yet. We used to go to like a town, and you would build an actual fort instead of building these 1x1s straight up in the air. And you would just hide out in your fort, and like people would try to infiltrate it. It was a whole different play style.
Are you saying it was like a Fortnite?
Exactly.
Who knew?
Anyway, PUBG released earlier in the year. That was like February or something, and then Fortnite came out and just snowballed, just slowly, very very under the radar launch on PlayStation. And then it just grew and grew and grew and grew and grew until
I,
the next summer is when it got huge.
and you know what? I like PUBG. PUBG is fun, but Fortnite has that cartoony style, and that's really what sells games.
Mhm.
Is I mean, Persona 5 did so well because of the style. You need to be stylistic with your games. You can't just be like Call of Duty knockoff like PUBG was.
Everybody's copying Fortnite now.
Yeah, exactly. So that sells, and they honestly that early couple of seasons of Fortnite were perfect.
Yeah, I
They were
agree.
great. Yeah.
Too much time wasted on Fortnite. I put so much time in that game.
Me too. Yeah.
And now it's like I appreciate where it is now because now it's making that big money. But I think that at that time it really was a great game.
Yeah.
That I want because we're talking about PlayStation and we you guys weren't here for the discussion about the PlayStation showcase last week. Epic Games is making the Tom York art piece. What do you all think about that? Because I think Fortnite has done a pretty bad job of art. I think their art pieces are.
I like the Travis Scott concert. Besides that, yeah.
That's the only one. I think we mentioned that last week. Travis Scott was unique. But did any of you partake in or see like they tried doing like a Martin Luther King Jr. March on Washington art piece that was real? There's no other way to say it but like hashtag cringe. It was kind of embarrassing. I think all of their concerts
When did they do that?
like a month ago or 2 months ago.
See, I don't like it when like if you're gonna do something like that, it needs to be meaningful and
Sure.
not just some marketing ploy. Like for example, like I hated it when we had like all those protests last year, and then you have like Activision like, oh, we're gonna clean up.
Yeah.
I'm like, so what? Last month you couldn't clear the shots. Like it took them protesting in the streets for you to say, oh, we're gonna get rid of the racists. Like I do not like that kind of stuff at all.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a tasteful way Fortnite could implement something like that, but yeah, I didn't know they did a Martin Luther King.
It was embarrassing. It was
Did they?
because
Don't
You
tell me
know,
Martin
but
Luther King in the game.
I will
Say
say
again?
this.
They have Martin Luther
No, oh my God.
no.
Could you imagine a playable Martin Luther King?
King in Fortnite.
No. The setting it was
about
basically
train
just
wreck.
like
Oh,
it was
God.
a room you could go to that was the reflection pool in DC, and there were a bunch of like posters and video screens playing Martin Luther King speeches. But I'm like, it's really undermined by the fact that there's so much going on, and you can still get like these little points. You're everyone's still jumping around. You still have to get
Yeah.
in each level. I'm like,
Everybody's the cartoony characters with their pickaxes running around out there. I mean, that just seems a little
yeah,
ridiculous.
it was
Yeah.
really poorly handled.
I mean,
But-
my character. My character in Fortnite is a Ghostbuster, and I'm the Ghostbuster running around Martin Luther King, and my other character is Michael Vick with the little dog on my back. Terrible.
Fortnite had some problems with
handle it. I think the ways you can handle it that are more
Yeah.
not even tasteful, but more just less silly because that just seems.
It does.
Yeah.
It just doesn't fit with Fortnite. They shouldn't have done it with Fortnite. Epic Games could have done with another game or something.
But the question I'm asking is like that was an intended art piece by Epic Games, and I the Tom York art piece thing that they're coming out with, I don't care for it because I don't think it's gonna be. I think it's a little bit kind of like self-congratulatory, and I feel like that's a lot of what their art pieces are, including the concerts. I think they're a little bit like, oh, look at us, we're so popular. I don't know.
I think when it comes to video games in general, like there are very few celebrity involved things that I'm like, oh, they hit it out the park.
Yeah.
I always think of. Do you remember? I think it was last year at the Game Awards where Vin Diesel and Michelle Rodriguez
Yeah.
And like they got on there and they're like, "Oh, you see this, Michelle? We're at home. We're with our people. We're with our gamers."
Gosh.
So-
Get that
What?
out of here. Get
And
that
then they
fuck outta
showed
here.
this like mobile game that popped up, Fast and
No,
Furious game,
no,
looked terrible.
no, they showed the Fast and Furious game, like the game that
I
came out.
know that's what I'm saying. It looked terrible, right?
Oh, you
It was
said
like
mobile
that
light
awful
game.
game.
Yeah, it was awful. It was on PlayStation 4, Xbox.
Yeah, but it looked like a PS2 game.
I'm just like, if you have to say you're with the gamers, you're not with the gamers.
Yeah, 100%, exactly.
So whenever I see like celebrity involvement in things, I always get a little trepidatious.
Yeah, which we could do a podcast on this, like
We could, sure.
when times they've knocked you out of the park and stuff.
Let's go through some of the other ones for 2017 real quick.
Sure.
Nier Automata, love that game. Great game. Very anime. And I think it didn't get enough money invested, so some of the stages kind of look a little samey, and you have to repeat the game 3 times to get the full ending. Besides that, though, like I really enjoyed. Did you have any history with Nier Automata?
No.
Got you. It was a good game. Highly recommended. And then Neo. I never played it, but I know that is.
Neo was nice. Neo was a lot of fun.
I heard good things about it. A lot of people compare it a lot to Dark Souls, and it kind of has that similar combat style. But it's made by the people who made Ninja Gaiden, and I have a lot of. I used to play that a lot on PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
Respect.
I you know what? I don't actually get that comparison.
What between Dark Souls and Neo?
Yeah. I just don't feel that.
That's why I never played Neo, so I can't speak to it. I have it because it was a PlayStation Plus game, but that's what I've heard. I've heard that it took kind of like the similar like nature of Dark Souls, but to be fair, I can't speak to it.
We talked about last week Project Eve coming to the Sony PlayStation.
I can't wait.
And how that everyone's describing that game as sort of like Neo mixed with Bayonetta. So I've actually always considered Neo being more close to Bayonetta anyway, so I think that's redundant. I think it's just the style plus the sexy skin-tight outfit sort of thing that people are comparing it to.
Yeah, what y'all were saying last week was very true. There was a lot of ass in that trailer.
A lot of ass. A lot of ass.
Nice ass. I'm fine with it. I'm not complaining by any means.
We're good with it. We're good with it.
I love. A lot of people were thinking it's like a Japanese game. It's actually a Korean game.
Koreans.
Yeah, I am very interested in that game. I'm looking forward to it. It looked amazing. Just how it looked. The other thing that came out this year was Uncharted Lost Legacy, which I never played half of it, and I don't know. I was very indifferent on it. I liked how it I liked the structure of it because I feel like it was a precursor to Last of Us Part 2, which we'll get to. In terms of how the more open world nature of it, in terms of the open going to each individual spot on the island you're on. I like that, but the story didn't capture me in much way. I like Chloe, I like Nadine, but I could have done with it. It would have been DLC.
Real quick, on that note, can you just do some fact checking for me? Mm-hmm. When did Far Cry 5 come out?
Far Cry 5? That came out 2018, but give me a second.
Okay. Because I don't have the box with me, but I have Far Cry 4 with me.
Came out March 2018.
Okay. I want to talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to it. We can go first with that one, actually. Let me just make sure there's nothing else with 2017. I don't think there's anything else. Oh, Super Hot came out. I love Super Hot.
Super Hot.
Now, you love it as a VR game, or you love it as a
both? I
really
love playing that on PlayStation 4.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
But as a VR game, it's infinitely better.
No, the only reason it's so good in VR is because it was so good when it came out.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's.
I'm looking. I'm just trying to make sure I'm not missing anything. If we are, it wasn't memorable. Let's get to the big dog. Let's get to 2018. I'll let you start. Taylor.
Okay.
Let's start with Far Cry 5. How'd you like Far Cry 5?
Loved it. I love Far Cry 5. Probably the game I've played the most. Period. I probably that's probably the only game I've ever even come close to platinum. But that kind of goes for all PS4 games. And that's something I want to say too. Is the PS4 at the end of the day, even though I'm a Nintendo fanboy, and I think you brought this up at the beginning of the podcast, Thomas, is that Nintendo has an iffy track record. When I was so happy I bought the PS4 on launch because I got to play every game, and the most games I've completed completely from top to bottom are on the PS4 because it was just so good and easy to play. But Far Cry 5 is a special thing to me, and it also makes me want to talk about a subject specifically about the PS4, and that is open world tryhards. Do you think, and I think there was a time in my gaming history where I said the PS4 is really just trying to do too many open world things.
I agree. I think this was a generation where we were at max at open world.
Yeah.
Where it's just like there's two, and look, we had some of the best open world games of all time come out for PlayStation 4. But I do think we got a lot of, because this is where Assassin's Creed became open world. This is where, we really got like Ubisoft. The Ubisoft open world formula was established during this era.
Because you do have The Witcher, and that was so successful. You have Zelda, the competitor, having such a good open world. You've got Metal Gear Solid 5 basically perfecting sandbox to its most perfect as of yet. I think Metal Gear Solid perfected sandbox open world.
Yeah.
And
you get the Rockstar, you get Red Dead and GTA.
You had Red Dead and GTA. But that's that's why I wanted to talk about Far Cry 5 is the comparisons to GTA 5. I think Far Cry 5 really did the perfect mix of story and open world. I completely it's a very streamlined game when you look at it from top down. You're like, you go from A to B to C to D, and then you finish the game. But the filler, the open worldness of the game, although kind of vapid, felt very suited for its Midwest America vibe. You go fishing, you go look for Bigfoot, you go find a guy in the woods, you drive some trucks. It didn't feel out of place, like a lot of games kind of shoehorned in their open world activities. The Witcher is, I think, a pretty egregious example of just shoehorning in side missions, side quests. Far Cry 5, sorry. I felt within the world, which I disagree. I think Far Cry 4 did that horribly. I think everything in that game was just pandering filler. Far Cry 5.
I didn't like it. I played a good amount of Far Cry 4, at least probably about half of it actually.
Yeah.
I was like, I do not like this world. I don't like the side stuff going on. I don't like capturing bases. I don't even like the antagonist like that. He's entertaining, but he's not compelling. So yeah. I never played Far Cry 5, so it's interesting. I never got that perspective.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. Because something I liked about Far Cry 3 was the weird religious aspect of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Where it actually takes on a completely otherworldly presence. It's completely, you're fighting a god at the end of the game. And Far Cry 4, you're fighting a bad guy who's got some Buddhist juju going on, whatever. Far Cry 5, I think, balances the reality with this fiction really well, where some of the characters are kind of like zombies. but they're just cultists. They're religious cultists, but you shoot them like you would a zombie, and I find that people have complained that it's too political. That Far Cry 5 was way too political because it came out during the Trump administration. It came out during a point of cultism on the rise. 2021 me goes, oh, that makes perfect sense. Like, look at the world today. Everyone's in a cult. Everyone's in a cult. Right. And you see these like crazy cultists, and they've actually taken on these metaphysical, religious like powers. I'm getting sidetracked. I think the open world of Far Cry 5 is nice to explore, even though it is copy paste map from Far Cry 4. It is still fun to play, and I highly recommend it if you played it. I'd send you my copy.
It's been on sale a couple of times. I've been meaning to pick it up. Yeah. I just haven't got around to it. But yeah. I've heard good things, and I think I might actually, when I get some free time in the gaming, just try to get. Yeah. Because I played 3, played 4, and 4 kind of turned me off.
It is a huge step above Far Cry 4. Far Cry 4's story is boring and bland, and the whole region is not interesting to explore. It might be because I'm an American, and I feel like you'd experience this too. Is like you drive around that map, and you're like, oh, that's something I could see on my drive if I went like a little farther west. You completely get where you are. And I really like Far Cry 5. So I highly recommend it. I'd send you my disc if you want, like if you don't want to buy it.
Oh, that's actually even better. That's better than a sale.
Yeah.
So this is the year also where we got some of the most critically acclaimed games on the console. One being God of War. Now, I have thoughts of God of War, but I'd rather hear you all's thoughts first. Anybody loved it? Does anybody really love God of War?
Yeah, no. I love God of War 2018. I never even hardly played the other God of Wars. I just never cared for them. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't, but I never did. But anyway, this game, the combat was incredible, and I love gameplay. I'm more of a gameplay person. So, and the story was awesome too. But the combat was absolutely unbelievable. I booted it up about a week ago just to get in and play around with the combat again because it felt so good. The graphics were unbelievable. Just 10 out of 10. It was a great game.
Great combat.
Okay. Question. Follow up from last week, actually, because we talked pretty extensively about the new Ragnarok. I think there was a consensus reached among all of us, Ben and Alfredo and myself, about this game possibly being a passing of the torch to the kid whose name I forget this week.
Atreus.
Atreus. And a point I brought up last week was no matter what God of War did then with Atreus, he's still a shithead. I don't want to play a game as Atreus in the future because we hypothesized that this was the end of where else could they go? What else could they do? Have they written themselves into a corner by giving?
So I thought that they were basically saying this is the Norse mythology, right? This is the end.
The Norse mythology will be I don't know what they call it specifically, but this era of God of War will be done.
That's right. So then I think there'll be a new era with Kratos just tackling a different kind of mythology, maybe.
Now, see, here's the thing: we don't know what they'll do next because we still really don't know how he got here in the first place in this part of the mythology.
Okay. Do you think it could be like a prequel then? Like the next one? Because Atreus sucks.
I don't think Atreus was going to be their main character at all. I think they're sticking with Kratos.
Yeah,
they have to.
I liked his characterization better in the trailer. I was like, it looks like he's kind of grown. He's not the bratty asshole he was in the game. You know, he doesn't seem like that in the trailer. So I do think they are prepping him for that. Now, do I like that decision? No. No. I prefer Kratos. I've been a fan of this series since the start. Kratos has been my guy. You know,
Yeah.
and look, God of War PS4 is not my favorite God of War game. And a lot of it is because of Atreus. Like, I do not like him much in the game either. I think he's annoying.
Like a big
comparison. Would you say he is the kid who's complaining that his pants have a stain on?
No, he's the kid with salmon pants who's complaining to his mom that he got a little bit of lobster bisque on them.
Right.
He's
He's
a brat.
Yeah.
Unlikable. Yeah.
He's unlikable. Yeah. I do think they're gonna do a better job with his characterization in this game. I do think that they can win me over if they do a God of Mischief game, I guess it would be. You know, if they go in that direction, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I got to see some major character development in this game.
This it spins off nicely from my like of the religious overtones of the Far Cry series. I like the paganistic religious overtones of the God of War series.
Mm-hmm.
What else can they do? What other pagan gods can they take on with Kratos? How far away are we from seeing Kratos fighting Jewish golems and then meeting Jesus Christ?
I was thinking.
Jesus the final boss.
Oh God.
No, I think that they might. I think you can easily go to Egyptian gods.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That's so far in the past. See, Ben brought up the fact that like the gods that he's fought in before are like not that long ago in history, like the past 2,000, 3,000 years. But you want to get into Egyptian gods, that's like 4,000, 5,000 years ago. So,
more Eastern gods.
Eastern gods or Western gods. He could go like Aztec gods, or yeah.
Or just drop them in 2021. See,
just drop them right here. Just drop them right here.
I don't know where they go, to be honest. But I do think that they are heading into a direction that they're probably going to retire Kratos for a little bit and let Atreus. They're going to try to make Atreus a brand. And I don't like that decision at all. But if they're going to do it, a lot needs to happen with this game. And I don't think, just going back to God of War PS4, God of War PS4 to me, I mean, when I saw it getting the 10 out of 10s, I was like, I got to pick this up. I got to play this. And it just it didn't click with me back then. I replayed it. I played it this year and saw that, I see why people like this. Still is not my favorite game on PS4. It's not anywhere near that, but I get it, you know? But one of the reasons why is because they did such a good job of Kratos.
So that's why I don't think they're going to leave Kratos. They spent all this effort and money into rebranding Kratos and building him back up. Now he's this epic character, which I don't think I guess you could say he was before, but like, why go away from that now? They've built this PlayStation symbol back and he's stronger than ever. And now we're going to go to Atreus. It sounds terrible.
I wouldn't mind them doing some multiverse stuff and like going back into
yeah. Go back to Greek mythology and have him fight all the Greek gods as like a reboot.
I think that would be a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
But I digress. There is a game I have to talk about.
I know what it is.
My favorite game of all time.
Spider-Man.
Got to talk about Marvel's Spider-Man. This game, I never thought a game like this would ever exist. I was more than satisfied playing Spider-Man Web of Shadows, which was a very shitty game, but had web swinging mechanics. It was on PS3. I was satisfied with just playing that. You give me a Sony exclusive Spider-Man story, which I would argue is one of the best Spider-Man stories told on screen. You know, when you compare it to a lot of the other movies that have come out, I think this one ranks pretty high.
At that time, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with Into the Spider-Verse, I think that's the bar for me. But this had a really good story. I love it's the best web swing I've ever played in a video game.
Best swinging graphics. Yeah.
Best traversal I've ever had in a video game, and that still stands to this day. Like
Yeah.
I don't think anything. There's rarity where I'll put on a game and just swing around, like just traverse through the city.
Yeah. Spider-Man moves through an environment very well. Just
he moves
flat
like
out.
how he should be, like how you envision him to. Like when you're watching the old cartoon, like he's literally swinging that way in the game. So I love this game. This is my number one favorite game of all time. So obviously I had to talk about it a little bit. But this other thing that happened this year was we got PlayStation VR.
Oh yeah.
And that came with it, obviously the Beat Sabers, the Astrobots. I kind of want to bring this to Cole. Cole, do you have experience with PlayStation VR in any way?
Yeah, I got it on launch. I was there day one.
What's your if you had to pick one game from that console, at least for that year, like
that year? I don't know that Beat Saber was Beat. I don't know that that was a launch. Was it a launch game? Yeah, so I would say Beat Saber. Okay. I remember PlayStation ran a campaign where they were in all the Best Buys, and you could go to a Best Buy to try it out, and it actually wasn't in the Best Buy in my hometown. It was in Atlanta. So I drove like 2 hours away to try out the PSVR in a Best Buy, and they had a person there working it. It was like right when you walked in, they were pushing the crap out of it. And I tried the first game I tried was that tank. It was like a tank fighting game. Oh, I was blown away though. Absolutely blown away. And I got it on launch and then showed it to my whole family. You know how the story goes. And I loved it. And then it finally took a backseat to my Quest, which is a much superior piece of hardware.
But it was the first big experience you had with like a VR unit.
Absolutely. And it was awesome. And what was it that we used to the demo disc that came with it, where it had like I would put my family, everybody in my family, I put them sitting in the chair in the kitchen. It was like a Resident Evil like it was a kitchen demo, and they killed this little girl in front of you, and she turns around and she's in their face at the end or something. That's like one of the main things I showed off that, and then the shark attack and the shark cage and all that whole little. It was a game that came with it. It was like PlayStation VR Worlds.
Yeah, that's what it was.
But yeah, that was an exciting time, and it was great.
Dope. I got it like I think I got it maybe a couple of months after it launched. And yeah, Beat Saber's cool. The Until Dawn game, which is basically like one of those. It basically was like one of those Dave and Buster games.
Mm-hmm.
On like a roller coaster, basically. That was really fun too.
That was cool.
So yeah, I think that was. I love the fact that PlayStation did that, even though it didn't. I don't think you can consider it a success, but not a failure. So.
Well, I would say it was a success. I mean, within the first year, they did pretty well with it. I don't know the numbers, but
yeah, it didn't set the world on fire, but it definitely, made its place in the VR space.
What was the premiere game where you're like in the car? What was it?
You talking about Blood and Truth?
It wasn't Blood and Truth. It was like the first one of that. It was like it wasn't called Blood and Truth. That was the sequel.
I know what you're talking about. I forgot the name of it. I know exactly what you're talking about, though.
So there, in part of this is the first time I've ever experienced presence, like losing yourself in a game. Mm-hmm. I was playing that, and there was like there's a shooting range, and you would load your guns by slamming your guns down on the table to load the mags in there, mm-hmm. and then you would shoot, and then you would slam it down. Well, the table in front of you, when the shooting range was over, like it's a 3-minute long shooting range. I sat my gun down on the table, and it completely just fell to the ground and broke my controller. Just broke it into pieces because I was standing in my hardwood floor, and I literally thought that table was there. So I sat my gun down on the table just to like sit it down, and it completely collapsed. And then another time I was hiding behind a desk in that game, like shooting someone where you open the desk out and you get the stuff and you're shooting. I tried to lean onto the desk, like put my hand on the desk and lean. I collapsed.
I feel like everybody has those VR moments.
Yeah.
But anyway, you lose your sense. But
yeah, it was awesome, man.
So yeah, that's pretty much it for 2018. Just to speed through 2019. I mean, this was kind of a weak year as far as games in general. And especially for PlayStation exclusives, I'm the only one I can think of. And as I'm looking on the list, like the only PlayStation exclusive game that came out was Death Stranding.
Real quick, let me give a correction. PSVR came out in 2016.
Okay, so
Just
so I think Beat Saber came out on 2018 then.
Yeah, that must have been a later
And
release.
Astrobot came out then as well.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. Thanks for the correction. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But as far as 2019 goes, I can't think of anything.
Death Stranding, is that year?
Which I never played, so I can't I played like an hour of it and I was like, I get this. I'll play this sometime in the future. This year.
I guess worth saying is that PlayStation, the publicity around it was all PlayStation and huge for PlayStation, getting Kojima to do an exclusive game.
Yeah, it was a big deal. Blood and Truth came out this year, and besides that, it looks like, I'm looking through Metacritic right now. It seems like a pretty tame year. Like it doesn't seem like there was much. A Plague Tale came out, so shouts out to that. And Control came out this year, which I adore. I love it as like a Twin Peaks fan. Like I love those type of experiences.
Good on you.
Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice.
Right. I never played it, but shouts out to that game. That game won Game of the Years and everything. So yeah, of course, that was a great one. And Division 2. I love Division 2. Love that game.
Me too.
Of course. Like I know it's literally like I didn't even have to look at the map. That was the first game where I didn't even have to look at the map for things. I'd be like, all right, I'll meet you at Metro Center. When I'm talking to my friends and everything, like I love that game.
That's awesome.
And Outer Wilds came out that year as well, which a lot of people love.
It's on sale right now on the Switch for like $10. So
Outer
never played it before.
Outer Wilds.
Yep, it's like $10. Yeah.
Outer Wilds or the Outer Worlds?
Oh, Outer Worlds. Sorry, I misheard you. Sorry.
But you know what? You're right about that too, because that came out that year as well. Outer Worlds came out, which a lot of people swear by as well. I didn't play either.
I wouldn't pay $60 for it, but
yeah. The thing is, I played Outer Worlds for like maybe an hour, and I was like, I like this, but I know I'm gonna have to invest at least like 30 hours into this, so no.
Yeah, it's easily $10. So.
And then, of course, 2020.
Great
I think
year.
Great year. The story of this year for video games is, to me, Cyberpunk disaster, but the success story for PlayStation is Final Fantasy VII Remake. And this was almost like this story had started early in PlayStation 4's life cycle with it was the 2015 E3 reveal when everybody went nuts.
PlayStation 3. Do you remember like when they showed off the gameplay with Cloud versus Sephiroth for PlayStation 3?
Did they really? I don't even remember this.
Ball rolling. I'll never forget watching that and being like, "Oh my god!"
Did they officially announce they were remaking Final Fantasy VII? It was just a tech demo.
It just showed that, and I'm just like, "Oh my word!" There's no way this is not. There's no way this is not going to come out. It's just a matter of when. Now, did it take like 10 to 15 years for that to happen? Yeah, but I've been waiting for this game literally since I saw that little trailer.
You dirty casuals! If Alfredo was here, he'd rip into you right now.
He ripped why?
Isn't 7 his like least favorite? I feel like I remember him saying that.
Did he?
I don't know.
We'll have to ask. But I feel like
I'm talking about that because 7 was an experience. I know it was. No, he didn't say it because he was excited for the DLC for it as well. So
okay, gotcha.
We might be talking about 15, which I feel the same. Me and him
may have been 15. Yeah.
Me and him were locked up about 15, but 7. That to me is my game of the year of last year. That game was an experience. Like I was smiling from ear to ear whenever I was playing that game. You know what I'm saying? Even when I'm in frustrating, it's rare when I'm in a frustrating section of a game where I'm like, oh, fuck this game, but I love this game. You know?
Yeah.
I love every moment. There are kind of some points where they pad it out because there's just not enough story there from what they're basing it on. So they're kind of padding things out. But what it did with the original story of Final Fantasy VII, at least for the Midgar section, oh man, chef's kiss. I love that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's awesome.
there are a lot of other games this year though that we probably need to talk about. One
Do we? Because we're getting into PS5 territory.
Well, one is big, which is Last of Us Part 2.
Okay.
That's right.
Now, I have my thoughts on Last of Us Part 2.
It's so awesome that PlayStation's swan song for PS3 was The Last of Us, and then the swan song for PS4 was The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, for sure. For me, the story is. I always say the story is a 7 out of 10. The gameplay is 11 out of 10. So I like the game a lot.
I would say the opposite for The Last of Us, the original. I think
I agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think the gameplay for The Last was Part 1. It's serviceable, gets the job done. But that story is one of the best stories I've ever consumed. This story is obviously trying to live in the shadow of that one, and it does a well enough job. I think that it's better than the majority of video game stories. So, but
I'm opposite. I thought that I was more engrossed with The Last of Us Part 2 story. I don't know why. Maybe because the production value was so good and the motion capture and everything, it was so awesome. I would say to me it's on par with the first one, but we're gonna do a Ben's book club on this game, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll dive into this thing.
But yeah, definitely a standout for the year for sure. Got Persona 5 Royal,
Ghost of Tsushima.
I'm still in the middle of getting through that. Oh yeah, Ghost of Tsushima came out. Love that game. Even though I didn't finish it, I'm gonna finish it this year. But I really appreciate that game. Because I mean, coming out like a month away from Last of Us Part 2, that game could have easily been overshadowed. But it stands out on its own. Neo 2 also came out this year. I don't know if we got any Neo fans out there. Miles Morales came out this year, but that's more PS5 than anything. It came out for PS4 as well.
Yeah.
And that
they start blending, yeah.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it as far as just PlayStation 4, just exclusive, just came out for PlayStation 4. So from that standpoint, I think we've captured pretty much everything. So just final thoughts. Oh, go ahead.
I want to bring up one more thing that we didn't really focus on. We talked a lot about the games, the legacy of PlayStation, but I actually want to take a second to compare the PlayStation 4 to the Wii. And this is because Cole, you mentioned the PlayStation VR, sharing it with your family, and that was the huge thing for the Wii. I don't know when you guys played with your PS4, but for me, I played with it during a time of my life. I started working like a real job, working like proper 8 hours, like getting home tired, just want a beer, just want to sit down, relax. Have either of you seen Blade Runner 2049?
I want to see it. I hadn't seen it.
During it.
Say again, Thomas?
I fell asleep during it. Not to speak on the quality of the movie. I was very sleepy.
The reason I bring that up is because there is a character in Blade Runner 2049, or characters, or just sort of like a device in 2049 called Joy, Joi, which is this wife that you can buy. You can buy a wife.
Right.
And you get home and she cooks dinner for you and she lights your cigarette and PlayStation 4 for me for a large part of my life was sort of that.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. That's hilarious.
No, the reason for that is like I'd get home at 1 a.m. after working 8 hours and I'd be tired and I'd want to play something. Nintendo wouldn't do it for me. It was when at a time in my life I wasn't living with roommates, so it was like Nintendo worked really well when I had roommates. I could play games. I could play Smash. I could play Mario Maker. Fun times playing with people. If I just wanted to sit down, I could open up Hulu. I could open Netflix, Prime Video, or I could play a game. I could play whatever I would play. And it was almost ritual for me to get home at the end of the day, sit down with my PS4 on, and just detox. And I'm saying this because I think the PlayStation 4's UI, the user interface, was really smooth, really smooth.
Great
It
music, too.
was great music, great little. It was charming. It was just like calming, and I wish more people could see game systems that aren't the Wii as this sort of what do they call the Wii? A media center.
Media. Yeah.
Yeah, you could come home and you could just like put stuff on. And I really like that about the PS4. It's I would mock the aesthetics of the actual design because I made it. I had like a comedy show about video games a while ago, and I made a joke about how sharp it was and like how you could poke your eye out with the corner. But at the end of the day, it fits really nicely. It fits really nicely into any space because of how like small and sleek it is. PS3, it's big and round. It's not going to fit everywhere. The PS5, same thing. It's weird and curvy. It's not going to fit everywhere.
Worse. PS5 is the worst.
Oh yeah. But the PS4 just sort of fit. It almost reminds me of a VCR player, like a really nice futuristic sleek VCR player where it just sort of goes near your TV and you don't even think about it. You just turn it on easily. You can load up Netflix and you can just relax. And I think that's where I wanted to leave the PS4 is like it's the perfect entertainment system. That's the phrase they used. It's an entertainment system.
Yeah, they really did perfect that. Like that's the main thing. It's perfect for everything. It can't do as much as the Xbox One, but it doesn't need to. You don't need to scream at your TV. Xbox, turn on YouTube. You don't need that.
No.
Like that's nice to have, of course, but you don't need that. Like the PlayStation 4 did everything you want it to do.
And it was so responsive and snappy. And like you said, there's something to be said about you get home, turn your TV on, immediately turn your PlayStation on, and use that's your base for the night. Whatever you're gonna do is like that's your base, that's your default, that's your common denominator. The PlayStation's gonna be on, whether you go to Netflix, YouTube, play music, whatever. And this was out before the days of Chromecast. I use Chromecast for everything now, but we used to always use that. And another point you made that's pretty cool is this is the system that I feel like I became an adult with, because the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 2, I was in high school and college and everything. And this is like the system that I went from like being young and being like, I got married, I had kids with this system. I've just gone like through like this. I don't know. It was significant. It's crazy.
This literally lasted through my college career. Literally, 20. I went to college 2013. So the PS4 had come out at that point and graduated. Literally done with school 2019, which is the one more year before the PS4 is pretty much over. So yeah, this was my mature system.
Yeah. Yeah. And people that aren't gamers I don't think they can understand coming from us, but everyone listening to this podcast or anybody that's a gamer knows that certain consoles fit well into certain chapters of your life.
For sure.
And the PlayStation 4 was 7 years, and it was amazing. It's probably my favorite console of all time.
Yeah. You know what?
I'd have to think about it, but I might lean that way too.
Yeah. You know what? This conversation, this little end bit, you guys just joining me on this like little trip of maturity is making me tear up Like it's beautiful. The PS4 is making me cry.
I was gonna end it a different way, but I'm glad we ended it this way. The PS4, I feel, is Sony's best console. I think that it's going to be hard for the PS5 to live up to the legacy of the PlayStation 4. I hope they do it. But the PS4, just for when it came out in my life, and it sounds like y'all's as well, it just came out at the right time and it did what it needed to do.
So if you're listening out there, before you go to bed tonight, just go give your PS4 a good night kiss because it was good to us.
Even
it was
if
good
it's
to
like
us.
storage, go to storage, get the key for storage, drive
Dust
out
it
there,
off.
dust it off, disinfect it, give it a little kiss because it got you through some time.
But be careful of the corners because they are pretty sharp. Don't poke your eye out.
For sure. For sure. Do y'all want to end it there? Or do you want to maybe go into just a little quick what you've been playing?
I don't think we can end it any better, to be honest.
For sure. Perfect. So we'll come at y'all next week with, what we've been playing, this week, next week. Besides that, this has been another installment of the Dukes of Gaming podcast. I want to thank anybody for listening or watching this broadcast. Coming at you live on Twitch, coming at you live on YouTube, coming at you on all podcast services. Leave a like, a comment, hit the bell as well for notifications. Send us an email at therealdukesofgaming@gmail.com if you want to have your question read live on air. But until then, I bid thee farewell.